cost of about $170,000 apiece. You're going to have the finest hotel anywhere in the southern part of the state right here in our harbor. And that's just the beginning. We're working on a minor league park. That's not just a baseball park. That's a coastline arena that does all kinds of things all year. That's a stretch to say we're going to get it, but we're pretty doggone close. And with a little bit of cooperation, that'll get announced pretty soon. I hope we don't lose that one because it will bring in good family entertainment for you and for me and for visitors. Dr. Kelly and I took our wives over to Pensacola a couple of weeks ago to see their park. The admission, I think, was $6. It's a family affair, late in the evening, for people to come to the downtown, the beachfront area in Pensacola and to have lunch or dinner or whatever, depending on what time they came in, and to enjoy themselves. Not just baseball. The week before we were there, the Boy Scouts had their big camporee out in center field. So they were using it for multiple purposes. They were using it for concerts and so forth. Hopefully we can get that. Now this Thursday in the police station, Dr. Sangani and his crew are coming in, and they're going to make a proposal to Memorial Hospital to build a new wing on Memorial Hospital, a $150 million heart and research center that will compete with Mayo and Cleveland Clinic. Hadn't got it yet. It's going to be up to the Board of Trustees of the hospital to agree to have that expansion, but that's in our town, in an area that financially has been depressed for a long, long time. $150 million state-of-the-art hospital for heart operations and heart research in our town. Keep your fingers crossed. We just got the plan in this week for the improvements at the VA hospital from Glastonbury. We'll be distributing those to the council in the next couple of days and to the GRC. And the GRC's done a yeoman's job for us, finally getting something that would bring us money as well as add a feature to the coast. All of the other people that came forward in the previous years, and I served on that group before I was mayor, had plans for Gulfport, but Gulfport never made any money. In this particular case with Glastonbury, we make 25%. And so we now become entrepreneurs in that 92 acres. And that'll be announced in the next few days. The golf course that we have is a drag on us. It has been for a good while, but we now at least have it breaking even, and we want to see some improvements in it so we can put it out for someone else to run so we can not only break even but make money and have a convenient course in close to town. Our sportsplex is a jewel. We have thousands and thousands of families who come in here weekend after weekend to play their sports out there. Also, our youngsters here in town get to play their sports out there. The water parks, under a new contract, doing much, much better financially than it has ever done. That's just a series of things to tell you about. I want to say that I understand how difficult it is for the council members to get harangued by folks who want their ditch clean right now. They want their trash picked up right now. They want this right now. They want their road paved right now. There are 7 wards, and those council members, each in their ward, get all kinds of pressure on them to do something for that individual right now. Well, the directors of the city have 7 wards, not 1, and they get those same complaints. And we're working to try to help those people with immediate satisfaction if we can. But it all comes down to a matter of money and a matter of priorities. We'd say to you that we're extremely proud of our team. We think we have the best employees working for any municipality anywhere in the country. We don't think it's fair to allow them to continue to work without the prospect of salary increases. We think they're willing to work harder, not smarter. We're not asking them to come up with an 80-hour week instead of a 40-hour week. What we're saying is there 5% more that we can get out of working smarter? 20 minutes a day of doing better than we were doing yesterday? We think there is. We think there is. And what we're asking the council to do is to revisit the budget and give us a chance to follow what the directors have come forward with, to right-size our city by not having too many employees, by putting in a package of benefits for future employees that are sustainable, and to not spend one-time money to correct a temporary situation. With that, I'm going to stop. Would you add anything?
Have nothing to add, Mayor.
You? And we'll answer any questions any of you would like to ask. Yes, Chuck Teston.
Mayor, I served 4 years as a Gulfport City Council, 2001 to 2005. And I want to thank my city council for voting against that amendment. I'm wrong-headed. It wasn't the right direction to go. Now, unless y'all have changed the rules significantly, what we did on that council and that mayor that I had, Mayor Combs, the city, about 5 months before the budget was getting ready to be prepared and finalized, we would have meetings. We would have every director come. The city would present what they wanted to do, and the directors would say, okay, I need A, B, C, and D. We would go through all of those processes. After we went through the processes, we would sit down and coordinate with the mayor. You're the CEO of the city. There's not 7 mayors, 8 mayors in this city. There's you. You are responsible for getting that garbage picked up, keeping the ditches clean, keeping everything running. Not the city council. They are the legislators. They are the allocators. But they do not run this city. You do. I look to you to make sure that we're solvent. And you're right. When I was on the city council, we had 2 months of rainy day funds. When I left the council, we had $11 million surplus. You can't run a city with a week and a half of surplus funds. You don't know what's going to hit you there. And what you did was right. I was going to come here today and ask you to veto them. And I'm glad you did. And I'll ask you to take it another step. Put the city council where they need to be. And that is supporting you in this city and allocating. And if they don't come back and reconsider what they have done, I take them to court. I would wait a minute on that. You're the mayor. You're the mayor, and I would make sure that you can't come up with a citizen's budget that will take care of my needs. Where I'm at, I don't have water, but I'm waiting, and I'm patient. And I know you're going to get me water soon. But you need to be the leader of our city, and I think you are. I think you made the right decisions, Mayor, and I want to see you continue on. You are the boss of the city. The city council, I love every one of them, but they're allocators. They're not dictators, they are allocators. And that's what we need to remember. Now, I come here and say this to you, Mayor, I said it. I want to take back one word of it. Be tough, stand your ground, make them answer every question you have, and tell you how they would better run the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. As a reaction, let me say this. The city council and the administration and all of our employees are a team. We want to work together. I do not want a contentious environment, and I certainly don't want our citizens to see some of the situations that we've seen in other cities and maybe other city councils in the past where it gets so contentious that the citizens lose confidence in their government. And so the administration has made a pact with the city council to try to be amenable in the things that we do and to get along and not fuss and not fight. And so far that's worked, and I think it will continue to work, and I think we can work past this situation on the budget this time. I can tell you that I'll have 100% of my cooperation and the 2 gentlemen stand on either side and all 600 employees. We're going to work together.
I'll be waiting to see it.
Yes, I just want to respond a little bit to Mr. Teston's comment about not having water and he's waiting because I guess I got this little sign here today. And as far as city services go, I think that the citizens were promised city services even in the annexation years and years ago, but they still aren't provided, and yet you're talking about cutting services in an area that was the original city of Gulfport. And as far as suing someone, I think the city is involved in a lot of litigation at a huge cost to the citizens already, And if you want to get some money back in the fund, maybe you could take a look at some of those situations.
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor, as I spoke the other night, and I represent the people in Gulfport, who are about 4,000 citizens in our community. And as I said the other night, we respect all the work that the city council, your administration has put in to this city budget. We know how tough it is in this tough economic times for you to work out a budget that's going to work for you and the city council and work for us. You're never going to have to worry about George Schloegel staying in this ground, I can tell you that right now. But with that said, you're never going to have to worry about Mr. Schloegel staying in this ground, because we know he will. But with that said, all the good news that you just gave all the people here today, that's great, and we love it. But what about the bad news that I want to talk about? And that bad news was one page in your budget, which proposed shutting down my fire station in Broadmoor. And y'all might all say, well, you've been very self-serving about your fire station. But if you remember, thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you very much for that. Let me respond to something. Ted, you know how much respect I have for you. I think you handled the campaign for me to be standing up here. Okay, so we know where we're coming from. You misspoke on something, and I need to correct it. The first month that we were in office, we were faced with the dilemma of what would we do about rebuilding Fire Station 7, which is on the beach at Cowan Road. And the administration made a suggestion that we put that fire station on East Railroad, just a few blocks further down the road from where the number 4 is located today. And that would save 7 and 4 by having one station to serve that broad area. That was rejected by the council, and I don't blame them for rejecting it, because the same group of people that are here talking about Broadmoor were here talking about College Park. Because they said, don't close my fire station. Well, we weren't closing any, we were consolidating 2 into 1 and had the money to build a new one. Now, there's lots of folks in this room, starting with Ricky himself, who lives in that ward where the fire station was, that would not want to take anything other than what he had. I understand that. And the people that elected him asked for the same thing you people in this room are asking for. But we brought you a plan where both sides, both groups of those two communities could have a new station, not too far from where you are right now, and we wouldn't be faced with this dilemma that we have today. But and not just to correct the statement that I wanted to close 7. I didn't want to close 7. I wanted to build it at the VA property and dispose of the property in the other 2 cases, put the sale of the other 2 property into our rainy day fund, and have a more sustainable program going forward, so we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about closing Station 4. That's hindsight. We didn't do it, so we're here today. Now let's talk about today. And this is a painful one for me, because I know how important fire safety is. Here's a report that I have from last week, and here's a report that I have from today, talking about fire service in Gulfport. Last week, well, it's actually week before last, because last week we had the storm, but during this time, the fire stations, of which we have a dozen, made 292 calls. Let me repeat that, 292 calls. 4 of those 292 were to put out fires. And 2 of the 4 that put out fires put them out with a fire extinguisher. The other 288 calls were not for fires. This past week, we had a little better week, because the previous one was when we had the storm and there were more people calling for emergency service. The report we got this morning was last week we made 221 calls out of the 12 fire stations. One of those was for a dryer on fire. The other 220, except for some grass fires along I-10, were EMS calls. Now think about what happens when we make an EMS call. An EMS call is emergency response, when somebody calls and says whatever. And it can be anything from a person having a heart attack to a cat that's up on top of the roof. It can be anything where you call the fire department, and that's a good service. We make those calls in trucks that cost us about $375,000. And we have 3 to 4 people in those trucks. That's not good business, folks. We're also paying AMR, American Medical Response Team, to do the same thing. But we get there in the fire department about 7 or 8 minutes before AMR. You can say, well, why does AMR call? Well, because if there's a serious situation where the person might have to be taken to the hospital, then our fire people put those individuals on a litter, put them in the AMR vehicle. AMR takes them to the hospital and sends them a bill for $450. We don't send bills. That's a broken system. You see, the truth of the matter is the fire department is no longer in the fire business. Fire department's in the EMS business. And we're not addressing the real business of fire. Ted's got a very good point, and I understand that completely. It touches me like it touches you. All of us want the fire truck to get to our house as quickly as we can. We believe that, and we do get there very quickly. The standard that we operate in this city with is to make all of our calls, 90% of our calls within 4 minutes. Within 4 minutes for 90% of the calls. Is that a standard that the city of Gulfport set? That's a standard of the Mississippi Fire Rating Bureau and the National Fire Rating Bureau. And we're submitting to you, even though you don't like it, and I respect the fact that the folks in the Broadmoor area would like to keep a fire station, we can make those calls in less than 4 minutes, 90% of the time. We're already doing it. We can continue to do it. Now, am I going to fall on the sword about the closing of Fire Station 4? No, I think we started out by giving you a better plan to begin with. That one wasn't followed, so we're faced with what we have today. But when you're making 221 calls, but only 1 is a fire, or 292 calls where only 4 is a fire, it's time to readdress what are the fire stations all about. Now, as a result of a little controversy, which the administration brought up a year ago, for the very first time, Harrison County re-looked at its contract with AMR to provide services. I'm told the last time that Harrison County looked at the contract was 40 years ago. They voted 4-1 to just renew it another 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure Gulfport can afford to stay under that contract, quite frankly. Now, the chief came in this morning and said apparently the word's gotten out that the mayor's upset about the services that AMR is providing and the cost to the county. And so they've scheduled a meeting for the 30th day of October to sit down and talk about some sort of way for the city to get reimbursed for the AMR calls that we're making. Well, we've been after them for 14 months, so now they're finally coming to the table. And Chuck, we're going to the table. But when you have that kind of a discrepancy in your program, and fire is extremely vital to our city, when you have that kind of discrepancy, you've got to stop and say, time out, folks. Let's look at this thing again and find out what business are we really in. We've got the finest firemen anywhere in the country. They're dedicated. They do their job extremely well. They pulled me and my family out of a car Friday night. This Friday night. And I'm appreciative of that. And they got there quick. I know what it means to be called on quickly. And I know you do too. But we've got to do it in such a way that we can afford the service that we're getting. And when we can make a call within 4 minutes to 90% of our calls, we're meeting the state and national average. So I'm saying to you, have a little patience with us. We're not trying to hurt anybody. And we've only got 4 stations north of Interstate 10. And those people have been annexed for how long? 17 years. They're paying the same taxes that we're paying below the interstate. Do they deserve to get equal treatment of 4 minutes within for 90% of the calls? I think they do. And that's our job, and we'll work on getting that. And I'm confident, I'm very confident, that the administration working with the council can come up with a solution to that dilemma.
Mayor, we've been there 18 years.
18 years.
January the 2nd, 1994.
It's time for us to do what we said we were going to do and give you equal treatment regardless of where you live in the city. Other questions? Ed Blakesley.